Welcome to Fuel Your Drive.
Guys, what's going on? Welcome to Fuel Your Drive. I am your host, Josh York. We have another great episode in store for you today. Let's get right into it. Before we start, though, guys, please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. The numbers continue to rise, and I am beyond grateful for all of you who listen to it and share it. So keep it coming. I want to talk about hiring today. It's a very, very important topic, and people have been asking me a lot to touch on this, so I'm going to touch on it. How do you know and how do you make the right hires? First of all, you're never going to know. Hiring is a mystery. Firing is a fact. You will make lots of mistakes. You will hire lots of the wrong people, and I've done it. You will done it. Every successful person has done it, and you need to learn from obviously those mistakes and just pivot and move forward. You know, it's that simple, right? You're going to have issues. You're going to make hires based on, maybe how someone looks on paper, and you're going to be like, oh my God, they're going to help grow my company. And that's always not the right way to look at things. But let's get into it. So I've been in business now almost 17 years, and I have brought some very, very horrible people into my company that have caused complete chaos and, turned things upside down and made things very, very bad and hurt my culture. Well, I've learned from that, and you're going to learn from that too. And honestly, the best way to really learn from it is to actually go through it. But look, when hiring, number one, you got to ask yourself something. Would you work for that person? That's the first thing I always ask myself. And if the answer is no, then that's it. It's cut off right there. Number two, something I always like to do is I like to talk and, dive in more to their personal life and learn about, just what they like to do on a daily basis. Do they seem like they are an active person? Do they seem like they're lazy? Do they seem like they're driven? Lots of people like to ask all these textbook type questions in interviews. And, that always doesn't work because most of the time people are not telling you the truth. And, there are other things that I like to do that work. But I think really what it comes down to is, ask yourself, like, would you let this person come over your house for dinner? Would you let them watch your children if you have kids? Like, these are important questions. And then you got to tie into, where's their energy at? Do you feel like they have good energy? Because energy is contagious, and energy is the number one most important thing that's going to move your business forward, because you need to make sure at the end of the day that type of person who you're bringing into the company has that type of energy to motivate and inspire everybody else. Because if you bring in someone who's a negative person, someone who doesn't have good energy, it's going to drag your whole entire organization down. Now, I remember back in the day, in the early days, I used to go out to lunch and or dinner with possible people I was going to hire, just to kind of get more comfortable with them. And I would always kind of just judge them in regards to how they act to the waiter or the waitress, because that also says a lot about a person, right? And one question I would like to ask, it's funny, I remember I used to be best friends with this guy back in the day. And when we were coming up early in our careers, we were talking about hiring, and he laughed at me and said this was the stupidest thing ever, but I don't think it's very stupid. I would always like to ask a question, when I'm in the restaurant, let me ask you a question. So as you can see, I just ordered the steak. It's got, string beans and some potatoes. I don't like the string beans and I want to send them back. What do you think is an appropriate way to do it? And believe it or not, I've had people literally say, I'd say, hey, come back over here, please. This is not what I ordered. Get me what I ordered. That was it for me at that point. I was just like, seriously? How about, excuse me, I'm not one to complain. I'm so sorry. I actually ordered, broccoli instead of string beans. You think I could just swap it out? Is that okay? Those type of scenarios are very important, because when you're not, watching that person and they're within your company and, you're obviously doing your thing and they're doing their thing, and you want to make sure they're handling situations properly. It's very, very important. But I think really what it comes down to is you need to make sure a person is organized with their life. If they're not organized with their life, they can't be organized in business. If they don't have energy in their personal life, they're not going to have energy in your business. Look, at the end of the day, as I always love to say, good leaders create other good leaders, and you have to be a good leader. If they're not a good leader, well, they're most likely pretty much not at all going to be a good leader within your company. So look for those type of people. And I've had some scenarios where people are like, oh man, you're just being totally unrealistic, Josh. That's not true. There's not people like that out there. Yes, there are lots of people out there like that. Okay. That's how you win. And people who want to win, are either going to whip into shape into that person, because you could become that person very, very easily. I know people who are overweight, didn't take care of their health and literally flipped the script and became super fit and super obsessed with their health and became a top performer. Just like when you talk about people who, people say, oh, well, that person's a drug addict. First of all, people who are addicted to something have that skill and that quality already built into them. All they have to do is shift their focus to put that obsession into something that's going to be good for them rather than bad for them. If you already got that skill, you're already ahead of the curve. Like you got to understand that. So look, at the end of the day, you got to look for people who are going to, drive your business forward. Number one, people who are going to make other people happy. And you want to make sure you can say, wow, I would work for this person. That is the most important question. And that's really what it comes down to. I don't really have much more to say. I think at the end of the day, guys, you have to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You have to learn from those mistakes. And look, there is a price to pay. Everyone has to pay a price. I don't care who it is. Every successful person has paid that price. And if you think every single person has made good hires, you're out of your mind. It just doesn't work like that. And let me tell you one last thing I'll leave you with. I'll give you a good example. I hired someone from Harvard. And man, this person was smart. But man, let me tell you, they were not aligned or could even stomach or handle the way I did things. And I'll never forget when this person told me years ago, you got like 3 to 6 months and you're out of business. And I was like, literally, I was like, you have no idea who you're talking to. Okay. You have no idea who you're talking to. And this was a long time ago. And we're still here. And we're on top of the world. And the truth is, the best is yet to come. So don't let anyone tell you can't do it. And don't let anyone come on your team and poison other people. And if they do, get rid of them as fast as you can. One other thing I'll add is I made a lot of mistakes over the years. And I've kept people on my team way too long when I shouldn't, because they weren't the right fit. They didn't have the right energy. They didn't have the right positivity. And I just felt uncomfortable. And I've talked about this in another episode about crucial conversations, because I felt uncomfortable having those conversations. And you cannot feel uncomfortable having those conversations. All you're doing is delaying the disaster. That's all you're doing, because the bomb's going to explode at some point, and you much rather just let it explode now and fix it and move on than be in the hole so deep that it might be even more painful because you waited too long because you kept delaying it. So remember, at the end of the day, look for good people, happy, good energy, and people that you feel like you would work for. And remember, not everyone's going to stick with you forever. Not everyone's going to be able to take you to the next level. Not everyone's going to be able to see the vision. And it's a shame. I think of some people that have been with this company for a long time and left because they do what everyone else does: quit, give up. They want something else. They want to take a little bit higher increase in a raise. So a little bit of a short-term gain, and miss out on the long-term win. But that's their choices. So you keep moving forward, guys. I hope this is helpful. Until next time, remember, fuel your drive. See you later. Bye-bye.
Legend. Do you know my name? My name is Legend.